Hey, Prozech, welcome to the podcast.
What's up? What's up, man? How's it going?
Yo,
It's an honor, pleasure to be here.
nah, man, it's a dope to have you on after doing your podcast. Make sure everybody check out my episode of Kicks Chronicles. You know, I was on. We did a two-parter because we did not want to stop talking.
Yeah, we were definitely going in, Paul. So definitely check that out. It's available everywhere you get podcasts. Anywhere you get this podcast, you might want to check it out. Type it in Chronicles with a K. You get me?
It's going to be in the description of this podcast. I'm gonna make sure. I put 1 and 2. But this first started as me hitting you up to jump on my podcast first, and now we did the reverse and just some added context for that. But for people who aren't familiar with you, how about you introduce yourself?
Absolutely, man. Well, first and foremost, once again, pleasure to be here. My name's Prozech, or Prozac, depending on what side of the pun you get me. I'm a content creator, podcaster, just a lover of the long form, you get me, and a conversationalist. So I have a podcast. It's called Kicks Chronicles, where it's a sneaker and lifestyle podcast where we essentially just speak to a guest about how they fell in love with kicks. And some of you sort of eagle-eyed and eagle-eared, I should probably say, among us are probably thinking, that sounds kind of familiar in terms of a premise, but I can promise there's no plagiarism, you get me? And that's the reason why we're pretty tight right now, because we realize that great minds do think alike and things like this do happen. But yeah, essentially I've had some amazing guests. Some of the guests that have actually been on this podcast have actually been on my podcast as well. And you know what, all I could do is be thankful about the opportunity that I currently have to sit in this seat and speak to the legendary Who is Hass on my first Kicks podcast. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was fun being on your podcast, and even after, hopefully everybody that's listening to this will check that episode out. But like, even after that, I still think we have two different podcasts.
Yeah, no, it's facts.
And I think that cemented it too.
Yeah, like, 100%. And I think that shows even more that even if you have a similar premise, the key difference between people is the people. It's the delivery. It's everything. You have your style, which is amazing. I have my style, which is amazing. Right? So go and check it out. So it's one of them things where that's the difference, man. So you can have two podcasts. And then I think about, you know what? In the UK, we have 1 million football, aka soccer podcasts. Yeah. 1 million, right? They all do the same thing. They all say the same things.
But no one's better than Arsenal TV. Now just like... You hear me, fam? Blood. Hey, Blood. You hear me, fam?
I don't know if he does this every week. He has not been sanctioned by me to do these Jason Statham impressions. These fake random Jason Statham impressions are wild, broski.
Man, I mean, I didn't tell this story on your podcast, but I'm gonna tell you. I worked with Dylan Lauren, who's Ralph Lauren's daughter. Ralph Lauren's daughter. I said it right. At her candy store out here, right, for several years. I was there for a minute, right. So this one dude pulls up. He becomes there's a cafe, and he pulls up, and he's like the first British friend I've ever made in my life, and ever since he said the word bitters, I have only said it that way. And then he was like, oh, do you like drinks with bitters in it? And I was just like, what's bitters? And then he was just like, bitters, like they make things bitter. And he was explaining it to me, but he had to say it in the English, like like New York, regular American dirty English, where he's like bitters, and I was just like, oh, bitters, and he was just like, and I was like, I don't even know what that is, and he was just like, I just need you to go get me some, and I was just like, all right, fine, and then I went and I got it, and we became real cool after that. Shout out to him. He started his own Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gi like companies called Nation Athletics, and me and him go way back, and we've been friends ever since. But yes, because of that, I was always just like saying like, sports tea, like I every time I'd see him, I'd just start breaking out in a British accent. And he said it was, well, this was like years ago, but he said it was valid at that point. I guess it deteriorated, or maybe it was just my binging of Jason Statham, because this is before I even know who Jason Statham was, right? And then after that, now it's just I just start talking like I'm in a Guy Ritchie film now. So yeah.
No, you're definitely giving Jason Statham, bro. Whatever you had in the beginning, bro, you've lost that. Like, with respect, obviously, now you're fully, like, I don't know what the latest one was, the Beekeeper. You're fully that guy, bro.
Yo, oh my God! If you watch the Beekeeper, rewatch the Beekeeper, yo. I was watching it. And there's a scene that they forgot to cut out the camera guy in the scene.
Are
Bro,
you
you
serious?
gotta watch it. I swear to God. Yo, if anything,
I
I will
love that
clip
kind of
this.
stuff.
I will clip this and I will find that. But there's one scene, I'm watching it, right? And I'm watching it, and I turn to my girl, I'm like, did you see the cameraman? And she's like, no. And I was just like, there's a straight up, like, you see the cameraman backing up as he's opening the door. And she's like, I didn't see that. So I roll back, and you see it's like 3 seconds. Bam. He's just like still in the movie. He's just like moving it back. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. How you forget to cut this out? And this
I
movie
love
is
that.
on streaming.
No, those are the type of things I absolutely love, man. I see with those kind of mistakes in films, man. I pick them all up, man. I pick them all up. I saw like, I think it was like Shutter Island or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
where like I think it was either Leonardo DiCaprio or one of the other characters goes to pick up a glass, and literally as they pick up the glass, there's no glass in their hand, and then it cuts, and then there's a glass in their hand. I said to my mate, like, did you see that? Did you see that? And I'm literally going back and forth on this thing, like, just literally.
Well, Shutter Island is a psychological thriller, so
It could be a mad thing.
maybe they're playing games with you.
Could be. Yeah, look, you know what I'm saying? The cycle, the cycle, like, I'm saying, like, the cycle,
like that,
going,
like in Inception, the top's still spinning, man. The top still, you know what I'm saying? But you're here to answer the question that I ask everybody each week, and that question is, what's your first kicks? What's that first pair of sneakers you absolutely need to have?
So the first pair of kicks, wow. I would probably say, like, I need to take this back. I need to take it back to, like, primary school. And for
Okay.
you, like, I suppose that's what, I don't know, is that kindergarten? I don't know how old. I'll probably be about.
Primary school, is it, how old are you in primary school?
At this time, probably at 10
is,
years.
that's public school. It's like public school is like grades 1 through 5.
Yeah, probably like, yeah. I mean, let me say, like, I'm in 5th grade.
There you
right?
go.
Man's in 5th grade, right? I'm in 5th grade. And up until now, I'll say it like this, yeah. I come from an African household. My mom was born and bred in Ghana. I was born in the UK, but she is a full-fledged Ghanaian woman. You get me, with those kind of sensibilities and that kind of personality. You get me, like, so in her household, there were 3 things that were important. It was God, food, and education, in that order, right? And, like, kicks did not factor into the importance, you know what I'm saying, like, of the day-to-day activities. You get me, like, you got what you got and you rocked it. You get me, like, and by God's grace, she did nice me a couple of times without me realizing it. But once I became aware, I also became aware that we're on my feet. I was playing a dangerous game, especially in London, bro. Because when you're in London and your bugs, we call them bugs or we call them creps kicks or whatever. When your kicks are looking crazy as number, it's a one thing. But if you've got them no-name kicks or them off-brand kicks, bro, you won't learn that day, bro. You know what I'm saying? People are not going to allow you to rest. You get me? Like, and I was just tired. At this point, I'm tired. I'm in 5th grade and I'm tired. I'm about to go secondary school and I'm tired because
why are you tired?
I'm tired because I've been fighting these battles, bro.
Okay.
I feel like I have to give her credit for me being as quick-witted and as articulate as I am, because I've had to fight these verbal battles and some physical battles as well. based on the kicks I'm wearing, like, for such a long time. Like, I was like, you know, man, this is actually long. So I think maybe around year like 4th grade, let's say 4th grade, I had to start putting some pressure on them because I needed a nice pair of kicks to round out, like my primary school experience. I needed a
Mm-hmm.
nice pair of kicks. And what was really, really popular in my sort of era in my time growing up were the Reebok Classics. Very, very modest shoe.
Mm-hmm.
History will have you believe it's a very modest shoe as well. But at that time, the Reebok Classic ruled the streets of London. Like, in fact, I'll probably go as far to say the Reebok Classic was the most popular shoe in the UK at that
Mm-hmm.
time. You get me? Obviously, no internet and all that sort of stuff because you get me. Times were different back then, but yeah, like it was everywhere. Like, and everybody had pairs except for me. So I'm thinking, you know what, bro? And I used to do this thing. I used to get the catalogs. I used to get whatever, and I'd go through the catalog and I'd be marking all the Reeboks and I'd be seeing all the different colorways, and I'm like, oh, and my size, I think I was probably about a size 7, 8 at that time. Yeah, it was about £50. It's a pretty penny in them days, man. It's
Mm-hmm.
some big money, man. It's no joke. You get me? So I was like, you know what? How am I gonna do this? How am I gonna do this? So I just started applying that pressure, bro. I was doing the washing on time, doing all the chores. You know what I'm saying? Like making sure I was like doing my best. You get me? Like
Yeah.
waking up on time, never being late, attendance on lock, everything just no holes in my game. You get me, for a strong year, just to keep on applying that pressure. Plus the whole, like, I'm saying it. By the way, I need that, mums. I need that, right? And she's getting agitated because Africans, you can't tell them too many things, like, you get me. You can't repeat yourself too many times before it
Uh-huh.
becomes beef. You get me. So like, I have to play it nicely, but she knows what I'm about. And by the grace of God, yeah, shit, like literally the last week of primary school. We're about to go on a trip to amusement park, and she gets me a pair of Reebok Classics.
Woo.
Now, boy, I'm saying, like, I'm about to be lit, bro. I'm telling you, bro. And the thing is, the box is sick. It's like a blue box, and I'm like, oh my days, it's my size. I can see it. I open up the box, yeah. It's a white pair with gold stripes.
Mm.
Ah, it's a white pair with gold stripes, and I said, bro, if my mom didn't just get me the most zesty pair of Reebok Classics available to mankind, bro, do I need this at 10 years old, bro? Do I need people thinking I'm flamboyant and outlandish at this age?
I thought, yo, that's fire though.
No, the gold stripes weren't doing it, bro. But the truth is, yeah, the truth
Why?
is,
What is it about it that I mean, in your 10-year-old brain, what is it about it made it zesty? The gold made it zesty.
the gold was wild, bro, because it was like it was like, I look at me sort of flex, and that's not me. Like, I do love a little bit of gold. Get me, God is good, but
Uh
like
huh.
the that particular shoe, that particular shoe, like in my mind, I had the black with the gum sole. Just
Yeah.
in my mind, I had
Yeah.
visualized that, right? There was others. I had the white with the gray sole and the gray stripe. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because the thing is, when you don't have a lot, right? And we mentioned this during our podcast,
Mm-hmm.
you build fits in your head because I've seen every single colorway. I've gone through the
Mm-hmm.
catalog. So I've built all the fits in my head and I've seen all the kicks. So I'm like, I need the shoe that gives me the best
Yeah.
bang
The
for my buck, bro.
options.
You
Yeah.
get me? It gives me the best bang for my buck. And gold weren't it, bro. I just did not envisage. Plus, I'd never seen a guy wearing the gold stripe up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna break new ground. And at that stage, did I really want to be that guy? Did I really want to be the first, the pioneer of the gold stripe? Did I want to be known as that? Did I want that to be my moniker? So I was like, you know, it's long, but bro, needs must, bro. I had to make it work, bro. And this is it, man. God knows my heart. I had to just, do you know what? I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna do my thing. They're a Reebok Classic. They're legit. They're not fake. You know what I'm saying? We clocked that. So I was like, you know what, man, we're gonna have to rock it. And to be honest, it wasn't even that bad. I have to be honest, it wasn't even that bad. Not many people gave me trouble over the gold stripe. It was kind of just in my head because I'd already visualized what I wanted to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wore them things until the wheels fell off, bro. The thing was talking, it was speaking different languages, tongue came out, my foot came out, everything came out, bro. But we worked that thing all the way out. Love
Let me.
that.
I'm gonna give a little. I'm gonna give a little detail about the Reebok classes to the listeners here. I haven't done one of these in a minute, so excuse. my rustiness on reading here. Blending high fashion and street style, the Reebok Classic Leather N Core, which is this is the newer version, the more recent that you're able to buy right now, version of the shoe pays homage to the iconic Reebok heritage, boasting a soft leather upper that adds a refined look. These shoes also feature an EVA midsole for an incredible bounce with every step. The high abrasion rubber outsole delivers the grippiest stride and returns confidence with each step. Celebrate clean and classic. Celebrate the clean and classic style in the Reebok Classic Leather Encore. I don't know what's this Encore part, but
Yeah,
this shoe is definitely, I want to say, one of hip hop's like forefathers, in my opinion. Right? You
yeah, it's definitely got that
like
sort of
it's
elder statesman kind of
yeah,
vibe.
like the
Yeah,
80s, when people were like, hip hop started out in the park, like that. Hey, you got Puma Clydes and then you got your Reebok Classics. I always feel like,
Shelto's in there.
Shell Toes was definitely in there. Reebok Classics were definitely the women in hip hop shoe. Like it's those and
A lot of women
um
because they had there was one high Reebok.
yeah, with the two straps on it.
Yeah, I can't remember the actual name. I feel like it may have been called the Workout in America,
I
but
think
I'm
it is
not
the
100% sure.
workout. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, that shoe was fire as well. It was very popular over here as well, man. Yeah, Reebok did their thing, man. I can't deny it, man. Funny thing is, yeah, the way that I used to walk them times,
Mhm.
like, like, because you're talking about the EVA and the outsole stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I just remember by the end of that shoe, like, the corners of my heel were so worn down. Like the shoe was just leading the whole time.
Uh-huh.
I realized I must have had, I don't know what it is like, whether you got like an open gate or a shut gate. I don't know what it's called now, but like I definitely had like a lot of I was putting a lot of pressure on the outside of my foot. So I remember working that heel all the way down. So that that EVA definitely got worked out just that shoe, bro.
Uh,
Definitely.
that shoe, I mean, yeah, that's one of those shoes like that, the Cortez, like those with where it's just the one like rubber piece of rubber,
Mhm.
and you'd see people when those are killed. I'm like, how you walking in those?
Sliding, broski, sliding. It's
It
real,
rains and you like, I don't know if I'm going outside today.
bro. You can't do those outside, bro. You're sliding, bro. You're doing the electric slide. You are doing that usher. That's
I mean, you talked about. So I'm very curious. I mean, I'm also firstborn immigrant. I think that's what it's called, right? Where you're the firstborn outside of the country of origin. But I'm curious about like how did they accept your love for sneakers? Like, what does your parents think, especially when you first got into the culture and like learning about it, like the when you were, you put them through the I need him, but now we're talking about high school you, and you are trying to like apply the pressure, but not the I still you still like I want to be part of this, but I'm not want to be part of this. Where you don't you still. So what was your method, and how did they take it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I was a little bit different. Once again, obviously, because I come from that background, my mentality was I didn't really ever want to put too much pressure on my parents.
Mm-hmm.
When I say parents, I grew up only with my mum. I
Yeah,
met
same.
my dad a lot. I met my dad a lot later, but I never really wanted to put pressure on her because I knew how hard she was working. I knew she was putting a lot of effort in to get me to the level that I was. So I started working from like the age of 13.
Mm-hmm.
I started working from the age of 13 and I would contribute to the household, but also obviously I'd save some money and get myself laced as well. So like I made sure to sort myself out. I didn't really put too much pressure on my mum to try and get me right. Although I remember my first year in secondary school, like literally the first pair of kicks, I didn't have enough money to buy the kicks I wanted. So I ended up with some shoe zone kicks. And boy, yeah, I was back at square one, bro. So it's what it is.
Hit the
But yeah,
reset button.
yeah. But the thing is, what that taught me was, yeah, man. What that taught me was like you can't rely on yesterday. You need what have you done for me lately, broski?
Yeah.
You need to make things last. And this is it, bro. I'd killed those shoes. I'd
Hmm.
like the summer and the following year, I killed those kicks. So they weren't available for me. And she didn't re up me. She didn't give me that reload. So I needed to figure my thing out. So by the start of secondary school, I was back to square one, you get me? But I was probably at square zero, -1. You get me? Like, but by the time like going through secondary school now,
Hmm.
and I was working, I was being able to finance things. I was able to cop as many Reebok Classics, and the thing is, like in comparison, Reebok Classics weren't super expensive. So in comparison, like a 110 or like an Air Max, it's a cheaper shoe, it's a cheaper silhouette.
Yeah.
Really popular in my area, so it gave me enough credibility, but also was affordable enough for me to buy as many pairs as I needed to get through that out the year. So you could get the black version. Plus, we have a shoe that we call the workout. It's slightly different, but the male version of the shoe, in the UK, that shoe is similar to like an Air Force One.
Hmm.
And in Bermondsey, where I grew up, you will see a lot of people wearing the white and black version. It's almost like the Uptowns, right? They wear the black and white version of that a lot. Like, and they'll do it wear it to go to school, wear it to work, boom, boom, boom. And you'll see that competing with the Air Force Ones nowadays because Air Force Ones are everywhere. But back in them days, it was the Reebok workout. And the classics were still doing their thing as well. So yeah, during that time, I just basically looked after it myself. But I started branching out a little bit in
Hmm.
secondary school, like in year 9. I think in year 9, I got my first pair of Nikes, proper Nikes. I think I got my first pair of like Air Max 90s. Year 10, I got Air Max 95s. And then, yeah, like Air Force Ones, and things started popping off from there. I started widening my sort of appetite in terms of various different sneaker brands and silhouettes.
And like once you started getting like several boxes, what was your mom's reaction?
Well, first and foremost, like they want to make sure that you're not paying for this using nefarious means. So
Mhm.
that's the first question. How did you pay for this? And I'm
Yeah.
like, you see me going to work, and they're like, yeah, but you get me. I got to ask, right? So when they start seeing several boxes, and I never had like massive amounts of shoes. I never had like huge amounts of shoes, but I had more shoes than anyone else in the house.
Right.
Definitely rose questions, but I would always caveat that by highlighting the fact that I contribute to the household. I'm paying a couple bills in there, ma. You get so you might want to hold down. You get me, man? Because I'm paying that Sky TV. So it's one of them ones where like I had leverage. I'm buying some kicks, but I'm also covering you as well. Like, and we were working together. You get me? Like,
Now you being like, you want me to cut the TV off, mom? I cut the TV off.
'cause the thing is, what like obviously you guys wouldn't know, but at that stage it was basically me and my mom alone in the yard because
Mhm.
all of my siblings at that stage before I met my dad were a lot older than me, like
Mhm.
20 years plus older. So they'd all
Wow.
moved, yeah, they'd all moved into their own homes or whatever. So it's just me and my mom. It's almost like I was an only
Only
child.
child,
You
yeah.
understand? So it was just me and her. So she had her whole focus on me, apart from obviously work and stuff. So when I was doing all of this, she did have a lot of questions for me, but ultimately, I mean, we were working together. We were working together. I did contribute. So it calmed her
The
down a little bit. And you know, for African money talks, right?
uh-huh. Did the so like is 13 a common working age? Like was all your friends working too, or was that how are you able to find a job at 13?
I hustle, bro. I'm saying I get busy. I get busy. I've been like that since day one, bro.
Mhm.
Maybe it's that African mentality, that hustler mentality, that nobody owes me anything. Like nobody owes me anything. Like um like I have a daughter now,
Mhm.
and she will never know what it feels like to wear off-brand kicks. She just will never know. Like partly because I'll keep her lace, but also partly because Nike have covered the whole Nike, Adidas, all the big brands. They've got kicks that cover the whole spectrum in terms of your financial budget.
Yeah.
Back in them days, it just wasn't like that. You needed big bread to be able to buy these Nikes and some of these bigger kicks. So like, the time was different. So I had to hustle, bro. I knew my mom had a finite amount of money. She was
Mhm.
working hard and she was working long hours. So I knew, like, being a bigger dude as well, like kind of, once I got to the age of 13, for most people, I definitely didn't look 13. I probably looked a lot older than that. So I could get away with working in those kind of environments and people not looking twice. Plus, I was always quite studious and responsible. So I always made sure I never really got in trouble or anything like that. So I just got my head down and started working, man. I started working in an Indian restaurant. Not cooking Indian because I have no idea. Just doing the deliveries before Deliveroo and
You
all
were
that.
there in the back making chicken tikka?
All the naan breads and
Yeah, like 14. I got you. I got the paneer going right
yeah,
now.
for real, 100%. So yeah, man's in the back doing the madness. But yeah, I was just doing deliveries and that from the age of 13. I was delivering. I used to do the leaflets as well. I used to do 1,000 leaflets for £20. 1,000 leaflets.
I don't know what leaflets are. Like, is
Uh,
that
Leaflets are like if you've
like
got like
brochures?
those menus that they put through the letterbox.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I do 1,000 of those for £20.
Jeez.
And so what I quickly realized is, bro, there's no way I'm going to 1,000 different yards. So every house is getting two facts, right? And
So you
then
only put out 500.
and then that quickly became 5. Every house got 5. The thing is, the guy tried to he tried to make me shook and say, "No, we'll come and check the
Yeah, we'll
houses."
check the houses.
I was like, after about a week, I realized no one's coming to check that, bro, because no one's got the time. Because I was putting in work, bro, and I was doing this all on foot. So it was like no one's got the time to be coming checking anything. So I was just slamming every house with as many as I could get. But yeah, I was just putting that work in, man, as much as I could, and then I do that, and then I worked in other places. I worked in so many different places, man. So yeah.
No, that's dope. So then, when was your first taste of sneaker culture out there?
I'll probably say my first taste of sneaker culture officially was like way after that. Way after that. Because ultimately, at that stage, I mean, it must have been happening. Sneaker culture was going on. But we're talking sort of like the late 90s, early 2000s, and in the UK, for me, just being sort of a young person, it just wasn't as prevalent. And I wasn't around in those circles. So even though I was an admirer of kicks, from a very young age, I didn't really have the insight. I didn't really have the inside info. I didn't really have people giving me that information. Social media wasn't as massive a thing at that time. For some people to try and date me, Facebook came in when I was in university.
Right. Yeah. Same.
For real, because we're a similar age, right? So
Yeah.
it's like the world was a different place entirely, and the ability to share information and be able to like all these things about like forums and night talk and all of this jazz, like crooked tongues that we had over here, like I didn't know anything about them, and I didn't have anyone
Really?
around me. I didn't know anything about them, and I didn't have anyone around me that spoke about that stuff. My introduction to the culture came during lockdown.
Interesting.
Crazy,
So
right?
you've been a sneaker. I mean, we've talked about the term sneakerhead, but you've been into sneakers, but not the adjoining community, right?
Exactly, and I completely that's completely correct. I think for me, and that's probably a good thing. Because I'm
Why?
not.
Why would you say that?
It's probably a good thing because I was able to. My love for sneakers was pure.
Yeah.
There was no benefit in terms of clout attached to it. I wasn't showing. You get me? Which I
I
think
get
nowadays is a different thing, right?
for sure, but I think that's what it's evolved into. But like
Yes.
the early days, right?
Yeah.
You'd know who the clout chasers were, right? And people would call them out, be like, "Oh yeah, I don't follow." For example, listen, no hate, Franlations, I love you, but people be like, Franlations, oh, he just bought his way into the culture, like that's what's happened in the forums versus, and then people would debate that, right? Because it'd be more of a tunnel of like the people. There would be a side of people who just genuinely messes with the person, and then then there would be another side where people would just like they're gonna use that as like this hate to try to put their name up, right? And be like, I'm the tastemaker. You guys should be listening to me, right? Now we live in a world where everybody thinks they are the latter. They think that if they can just be loud, the loudest in the room, people are going to listen to them, right?
Yeah.
And when everybody's screaming at the top of their lungs and they're all saying the
I hear
same
nothing.
thing, nobody's
I hear
listening.
nothing. 100%. 100%. One thing I
Mm-hmm.
will say though, and I completely agree with where you're coming from. One thing I will say is, even though I wasn't super crazy into the culture at that time,
Mm-hmm.
what I inadvertently did do between college and university was fall in love with Japanese streetwear. Right,
Mm-hmm.
so Japanese streetwear kind of was my gateway into streetwear as a genre of fashion, but
Mm-hmm.
also sneakers and understanding a bit more about the different silhouettes and the different brands within sneakers at that time. So I'd fallen in love with Evisu,
Mm-hmm.
and then that
Drunken Monkey, you was in
okay,
there. He was
so
doing, yeah.
EVs yeah, the drunk, like,
Visvim.
yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
these, like, so that was like, for me, that was the pinnacle of streetwear at that time, and that's what I was
And
aiming
you
for.
bought pieces?
Like, yeah, I was getting
Oh, you
EVs.
got money. Oh, you got money. Okay.
But I'm saying I get busy, bro. I'm working, bro. So like I'm buying EVC, I'm getting bits and pieces, right? Then EVC just like dies a death in the
Right.
UK. It just goes, right? And this happens while I'm in uni. So I started seeing this happen, and even though I love the craftsmanship and I'm seeing what's happening with it, I'm like, and they actually ended up opening a store in where is it? Savile Row. They actually
Mm-hmm.
ended up opening the store in Savile Row. It's no longer there, but they did their thing, and I respect TVC for that. And they're
I hope
slowly
you
coming.
kept everything. I was gonna say, I
Nah,
hope you
bro.
kept everything.
Nah,
Because in
bro.
Japan, bro,
Is
they are going for bread,
yeah.
man.
See, this is it. This is the foresight. Foresight has always been a bit of an issue for me. Anyway, but what I ended up doing, right, and you're gonna say the same thing when I ended up sort of transitioning to vape,
Mm.
transitioning to vape, and a lot of that was as a result of like music that I was listening to, Neptune's Pharrell clips, like all of that sort of stuff, Kanye especially as well. So like just seeing like a different thing where everyone was rocking Evisu, I was like, okay, and now I need to up my game a little bit and switch it up a little bit. So yeah, I switched it up to Bape, and I remember getting my first pair of Bapesters in university, and when I got them, obviously the first thing I got a white and white pair. First thing, I ended up getting a white and white pair, then a multicolour pair, and then I got the roasters as well. But I got so many different pairs.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, the first thing that people were saying was, these are fake. These are fake. The great thing, though, is there was an American guy at my university called Paul. So shout out to Paul. He had everything. So when I say this guy, obviously he's American, right? But if you could draw like an American at that time, like he was the caricature of an American, as in the baggiest, yeah, as in the I'm saying like the throwbacks through back, bro, like everything, every jersey you could think of, like the baggiest jeans, like and then every other day is Air Force Ones, Bapes, different things. I'm saying do rags. Before in the UK, we didn't even really know what do rags did. We didn't even know what they were. Right now, it's everywhere. Right, he's rocking do rags. He's got the waves, and he had some long chain with. I'm saying like he did his thing, bro. And like because we love the music, and he was like a visual representation of the music. Plus, he was authentic. I couldn't deny it. He was
Mm-hmm.
literally American. He wasn't like one of those African American. He wasn't like one of those Africans that came from Africa and just like an American. He was
Yeah.
literally from America. So it was like we had to give him that respect. And yeah, seeing him put certain bits and pieces together, like I definitely loved that vibe. So yeah, the Bapes definitely blew up. And then I started working in a shirt shop that was very close to the Busy Workshop in London. And I was there every lunchtime. I was literally there every lunchtime. So I'm buying pieces every 2 or 3 days, just buying bits and pieces. And I kept a lot of those. I did sell a few of them, but that's probably my biggest collection. I had been my biggest collection was my Bape stuff. And yeah, man, yeah, that was pretty much it. And then I started like getting the kicks. I started getting the roasters, the Bapesters, and I started getting the Converse collabs, and I started getting various different bits and pieces. And
It's
then it
interesting
started
that
working
your
out.
your uh, your introduction was more of the higher. higher brands first, then led you to Bape versus being like Kid Cudi or Pharrell, you
Yeah,
know, is
yeah.
interesting. That's a different, yeah, it's a different lane.
I think it was probably because of a lack of information and just looking at music videos and music and having that aspiration to try and replicate some of those looks and some of those styles. So yeah, that was probably it. And the thing is, in the UK, the style in the UK, I hadn't got to a stage where I was able to, and essentially I wasn't embracing the UK style at that point. And I think obviously maturity plays a little bit of a role in that. You get to a certain stage where you realize everything being baggy that kind of doesn't make sense. But sometimes it being baggy is quite comfortable. So you kind of just start finding a medium and start finding what's comfortable for you. And at a certain point, I was able to do that. But I went through my phases, man. I went through my phases. I definitely had my Bape and my VC phase. I'm saying I had a couple throwbacks. I had a couple of couple Mitchell and Ness pieces. You get me? Like we did our thing. But yeah, I hadn't graduated into to Jordans and anything of that nature. That happened a little bit later.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So then you're traversing through university, and what was your major during that time?
Business and marketing.
And what made you want to get into that?
So I originally wanted to do biology, but my grades weren't good enough to do biology. So I ended up going to a uni doing what was it called? Applied sciences or something like that, some bug name. It was basically the I was gonna say that, you know, the guys that just basically don't make it, they give you this, right? And it's like if you do well in this, then you'll be allowed to go to study biology, right? So do well in this for a year and graduate, and then we'll let you do biology. And I was like, you guys are mad, and the classes were terrible. It was just a terrible situation. It was like a foundation degree, right? I think that's what they used to call it. So I said, you know, I'll bun this, right? And I took a year out. And I sort of just really asked myself what I wanted to do, bro. And I realized, man, like, and it was interesting because I think it happened coming back from the club. I don't really go clubbing and stuff like that now. I kind of changed my life in that regard. But like, I think I was coming back from the club with my boys and they were all in uni. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't in uni. I was working. I was working at like the job center. I think you guys call it maybe like the social security office or something like that. Like,
No way. I don't think job center, social security office is like where they just process people's social security. Like for social security is like over here is like this. No, it's a government ID number, right?
okay, so it's not an actual place that. Well, like we
I think
have
you're thinking about like what's
the
the name?
unemployment
Unemployment.
place,
No, unemployment place is literally like another. It's like a government assistance
bro. This
place.
it is. It is.
Yeah. So like you're
So
helping people get jobs.
absolutely, this is
Okay.
what I was
Okay.
doing. So for that year, obviously, I'd finished college, but I hadn't gone into uni. But sorry, I was going to say my sister was a manager in one of these offices, and we have like these offices in every borough, right? Different variations of these offices. They help people get a job, but they also give them their money every couple of weeks to help them
Mm-hmm.
while they're looking for work, and also their benefits, right? So she ended up linking me up with one that was quite close by. I got the job, and during that time, I had money, right? I had money because I was working, but I also was just looking into different things and trying to work out and use that time to really be quite critical and understanding who I was and what I was really good at. Also, what I really enjoyed, what I was passionate about, and it came down to just me loving. That sort of entrepreneurial journey, creating something that is nothing, and it then potentially becoming something that people use, people like look at, people watch, people do. I wanted to create something that grew and became something, and a business ultimately to benefit myself, my family, and generations hopefully. So that was really where it came from. And then yeah, I said, you know what, yeah, if I'm gonna do that, I need to do business. And then marketing, I feel like marketing is the art of speaking to your customer. That's it, right? And being able to understand that language is really, really important in all aspects of business. So I was like, boom, I'm gonna do marketing. So I did business with a marketing slant, and yeah, did okay. and yeah, ended up not really using it. Apart from when I did business, I did my own business. I've done my own businesses, but
Hmm.
in work, I never really used it. It is what it is. It's funny how that goes. You go to university, you actually do a degree in something you want, and then you don't actually use it in the job that you get out of
I think
university.
it's definitely a common story. You know, I just recently had somebody, my previous guest, Sydney. She just had, she really went from going to school for marketing to starting her own marketing company. Like her, yeah, it was super dope. But yeah, I think that's more rare. It's only because yeah, the careers are never linear, right? Unless you pick unless you pick like a skill in
Unless like doctor,
school,
right? Unless you're a
right?
doctor or a lawyer, those are pretty like set up. Like
No, but I think they're like if you go right, you just recently got your agile certificate in project management, right? But
yeah,
if you
yeah,
went to school
absolutely,
for project management, you can use project management in you can get several different types of project management
absolutely,
jobs,
absolutely,
you know.
absolutely.
um like you can project manage. I have a friend who's a project manager for JetBlue, and he makes terminals. Like
Jeez.
he makes like airport terminals, and then if you say like, oh yeah, I'm a project manager, you could say that to somebody else, and they'd be like, yeah, I'm a project manager, but I just work helping creative directors, design an ad or something like that, you know. So yeah,
It's different. It's different. By the
yeah,
way, well played for the research, man. That's good, man. You've been checking my stories, yeah, because
yeah.
that's fresh off the press, man. The agile thing was kicking my butt still, so I have to thank God on that one, man. We have to get through that.
Hey,
But
yeah,
yeah,
look,
man.
we're here to applaud flower and applaud wins and celebrate flowers.
No, no, no,
So
we're good, man. I appreciate that, man. But
yeah, of
yeah,
course.
no, absolutely. That's definitely. It was a hard slog. But yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. It's not normal for people to come out and just go straight into to what they worked in. But like
Hmm.
my first job at a uni was I was a journalist.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was completely like different, like completely different. I mean, and that was my first real job. I did like a load of like temping and stuff like that,
Hmm.
admin stuff. But like my first real job was being a journalist, and it was I was working for the Wall Street Journal and Dow Jones,
Hmm.
and it was like
Straight
get
finance.
straight finance and economics, just straight like and no color whatsoever, just straight facts. We're taking numbers, trading reports, boom, 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 putting those out. People are trading off the back of it, and it's just like literally the most A plus B plus C type of journalism you could ever get. But it was actually interesting because it opened my eyes up to the whole idea of being able to be a commentator and
Hmm.
speak, have a beat, have companies that you cover, have a thing that you watch and that you look at and that you're observing on a regular basis, and it kind of then the through lines of that coming to now where I'm like. I observe the culture and I watch the
Hmm.
culture and I'm seeing what's happening within the culture and get the opportunity to speak to people about that. That's definitely, I think, where some of the green shoots of that started.
No, yeah, that's dope. I mean, you never know where you're gonna be inspired, right? And you never know when that inspiration hits. But you talked about 2020 being that moment where you felt like this is I'm part of I'm like looking and seeing this culture through this window, right? So what was it that pulled you in and finally was like, all right, I got the fangs in you.
For real. Do you know what it was? It was the Yeezys. It was
Hmm.
Yeezy. It was Yeezys. Now, obviously, I'd
I
been
see all those
yeah,
boxes over there.
yeah. I've got a little bit of a Yeezy collection. I definitely want more before it's all said and done. But yeah, I got a little thing going, bro. But
Hmm.
like, essentially, what happened was during lockdown, I realized that okay, I love these. Actually, it was just slightly before lockdown. I was like, I really want a pair of Yeezys. Like,
Hmm.
and the thing is, like Yeezys had started in like 2016, 20. So I can't remember exactly what the date is, but they'd started a little bit like in the mid 2010s, right? And I'm like 3 or 4 years off of that. So the
Hmm.
Wave Runners have come out. Obviously the whole Nike Easy thing has already happened. That's already done. That's in the dust. I'm
Yeah.
fully in the Adidas Nike era. Sorry, Adidas Easy era. That's where I'm jumping in at, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
wave runners have happened. I saw the wave runners happen at first, and I was like, those shoes are whack. All of a sudden, I've always got. I've nearly bought 3 or 4 pairs of them. Like now, it's like things have changed, and it just took me a little bit of time to understand what the shoe was really about and what the brand was really about. Then I made the mistake of actually putting them on,
Mm.
especially the 350s, not the early 350s. It was the 350 V2s by the time I got to it, and I was like, bro, the level of comfort I had not experienced. I was also a big Ultra Boost guy. Like I
Mm-hmm.
keep Ultra Boost near. Like I have Ultra Boost like everywhere. Like I've got old pairs, new pairs. Like that pair that I
People
just got.
swear by them, man.
Yeah, Ultra Boost. I've got pairs that I've not even worn. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like the whole Boost technology thing really, like I became very very interested in the whole technology because I think I had an issue with one of my feet, and I just
Mm-hmm.
really wanted a comfortable pair of shoes, and I liked the idea of a breathable upper, a really spongy soft midsole with a little bit of grip. I knew that they had that continental thing going on as well on the Ultra Boost, especially with the early models, and I think it was a really cool looking shoe, and once again Kanye had really championed it, and then obviously then graduating to the V2
Mm-hmm.
350, and just seeing the various different colorways that are coming out and the simplicity of the design, it just being pared back, but kind of like a little bit sort of deconstructed in a way with certain bits exposed and stuff like that. I was like, bro, this shoe is actually fine. And then the fact that it was super comfortable, but yeah, very cool. It was giving me everything I wanted. So I just made the decision that I'm gonna get a pair of Yeezys. Then realized, and this is how I became introduced to the culture, realized that you can't just go into a store and buy a pair of Yeezys at this time.
Nah, not
It,
that, not that time for
not at
sure.
that time, no. Just not a possibility. It's not a real thing. So I'm learning how people get Yeezys. So I'm realizing when I walk on the street and I see people wearing Yeezys, if they're not fake, if they're real, these people have had to either line up, these people have had to even like jump through hoops on the
Mm-hmm.
Confirmed app or the Adidas app at the time. They've had to do some various different activity to get these shoes, other than just turning up and giving people money. And I was like, my mind was blown. So I
Mm-hmm.
just deep dived into the whole thing about different types of drops and understanding sort of how shoes are, how sneakerheads got shoes at that period, how people that wanted kicks actually were able to get kicks. Once I clocked it and understood it, and like I was like, whoa, so this has been going on. While I've
Mm-hmm.
like, and by this time I'm married and all of this sort of stuff, but like all the time while I've been married and focusing on paying like bills and stuff, like this whole culture has like blown up to the point where grown men are lining up outside at 4 a.m. to try and cop kicks, and I didn't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what's going on? Like, how did I miss all of this? So I just deep dived the whole thing and started getting into it and realized, you know what, man, let me make up for lost time, man. So I'll cop my Yeezys.
Mm-hmm.
Remember getting my first pair of Yeezys, absolutely loved it. I've
What was
still got.
that price tag?
Well, that's a great story as well. I ended up getting them from N Clothing,
Okay.
and at that time, I think Yeezys were 180. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm not mistaken, I think they were 180. But I ended up getting them for, I think it was 160,
Okay.
because End automatically applied a voucher. Can you imagine? Like they automatically applied a voucher. I couldn't believe my good fortune. It was almost like it was sent from God. Like, and the drop was literally 1 or 2 days before or after my birthday, like in November. Yeah, like in November. So, and it was the utility. It was, I don't know, the static blacks. Static blacks, but it wasn't the reflective ones. I think they just called the blacks, right? But yeah, it was like and it was just such a very very clean, calm shoe. A shoe that once again I could use across the board. Black
Mm-hmm.
shoe. I'm saying it's matte black, but it's still black enough for me to use it across the board. I wore it everywhere. I still got them now. And yeah, since then I've been able to cop a lot of Yeezys.
It's funny because I'm never sold on Yeezys, man. Like I used to have a co-host for the podcast. Shout out to my boy Iffy, and he bought me a pair for my birthday because he was like, "You need to have a pair." So I was just like, "All right, fine." So he bought me a pair. I got the Ash Blues. I think that's what they're called. Because I showed him one. I was just like, all right, I like this one, and I got them. They hurt my feet, man. So they just yeah.
Were they Ash Blues? Were they 700s or were they 350s?
350 V2s.
Jeez, man. Ash Blues.
Yeah.
I
But I
remember the.
do want the Yeezy boot. There's a Yeezy boot with the
Oh yeah.
blue on the bottom. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
the gray
Yeah.
and blue. I
Yeah.
still want
No.
those.
The Easy boots went super hard, man.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people love the boots, because that speaks back to the whole Yeezy season thing, and like even like the 750s that came out originally and stuff like that. Like I feel like the high tops and some of the boots that they had originally were so sick. But yeah, they just started beating that 350 horse to death,
Yeah.
and now it literally
Now
is.
it's on top of that we got rants and stuff. But so that was your first taste, and what really made you want to full on deep dive into like being part of this and starting your own thing and wanted to have conversations around the UK across the pond. Like what was your main motivation?
I think it was a combination of a few things. Obviously, my journalistic background, my love of long form. I'd fallen in love with podcasts at that time. I'd fallen in love with podcasts and the idea of being able to sort of almost like have your own radio station, but not necessarily have to be on 24 hours a day. Being able to listen to somebody for an hour, 2 hours. I was heavy interested. I think we connected over that as well. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was heavy interested. I used to listen to a podcast called The Smart Wrestling Fan. I think it was called Smart Wrestling Fan, SWF. Um, and that was probably like a 2-3 hour podcast. And I was just like, can you imagine, right? And
Of
I would listen.
wrestling alone?
Yeah. It was nuts. They would go through absolutely everything. And I was like, whoa. And it was only years later, I was like, bro, I can't do this. This is actually done. Right. And I think they're still going as well. So shout out to
They
them.
probably will. Yeah, shout out to them.
Yeah. But yeah, it was like I'd fallen in love with the medium of podcasting. Obviously, I once again had my journalistic background, so that that sort of that sort of ability to deep dive and research into a subject to really sort of like get. And I'm a kind of a nerd in that regard, in the sense that when I really like something, I just go.
Yeah, jump right in.
Yeah, I just go super deep into it. My wife was, I mean, we were just talking about that recently. Like, I am that type. Like, when I really, really like something, I don't do it halfway. I just go all the way with it. So, yeah, it was all of those things, plus the love of streetwear and the love of kicks. And it was also then realizing, there's an opportunity, because at that time, social media, like, and this is obviously just slightly prior to lockdown, but social media is now becoming a viable destination for you, a viable option for people that want to have another stream of income, or maybe even make this their whole income, right? So this is gradually becoming a reality. People are YouTubers. People are coming out with really cool and novel ideas, putting them on YouTube or putting them on social media and becoming big, and just being able to do that for the rest of their lives. And brands are identifying with them and supporting them and championing them. And I was like, bro, I need to. And I'm an entrepreneur at heart.
Mm-hmm.
I always think about what can I do to try and make an impact, to try and do something. So I was like, I need to think of a thing. I need to think of a thing, right? And I remember it was like 2016. That idea of I need to come up with something. I need to come up with something. I was thinking about it. And I actually had a friend that I was working with. Shout out to Ben, right? I had a friend that I was working with, and literally in 2016, I was talking to him about this, and we used to sit right next to each other, and we used to work at the in a financial company, and I was talking to him about this, and literally a few years later, he started a channel called Cow Free Kicks. Um, he became one of the first pure vegan sneaker commentators, like on YouTube. Like,
Wow.
who only talks about vegan kicks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's called Cow Free Kicks. That's the reason, hence the name, right? But like, I think he's on like over 10K now, and I was like, bro, like, and this is me a few years later after he'd already started, and I'm clocking. I should have started something then, but I didn't know what to start. And then the idea of okay, I've got this personality. I don't mind talking to. Like maybe I should start reviewing kicks, because that would be an easy way for me to get kicks in. I'll be able to review them, and I could then sell them if I don't want to keep them, and then I could use the money to buy the next pair of kicks,
Mm-hmm.
because the resale was up at that time. So
Right. Yeah.
boom. So like I was like, that could be my little go round. I could buy the shoe, do a little bit of content on the shoe. If I want to keep the shoe, I can keep the shoe. But if I want to sell it on, I can sell it on, and use that next money to get the next shoe and keep it going and keep it going. And that's essentially how I started the channel, doing like reviews and stuff. And then it gradually turned into the podcast. The channel originally was called Kicks Chronicles,
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted it all to be. I wanted to do both at the same time. But then I realized Kicks Chronicles didn't really make much sense when I was reviewing kicks. So then I kind of just switched it up, and just had sort of the Prozac as the reviewing the kicks part, and then the Kicks Chronicles as the podcast. And then, yeah, man, I kind of separated the two and just had it all on one channel. And then, yeah, man, we started the podcast.
And look, I mean, you just recently hosted a live version of it with eBay, right?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose, yeah, in a way, because I hosted. So I've had the opportunity and the privilege to host at a couple of sneaker events, and the last one was Kicks and Coffee. My bro Joe Palmley, who runs Kicks and Coffee, brought me in for the last event and for this one, and this one was sponsored by eBay, so they signed off on everything. So I was able to do a live Kicks Chronicles at the event. Unfortunately, and this is both mine and his fault, we were unable to record it. It would have been sick to record, but um, I have had previous episodes with at the previous Kicks and Coffee festival, and plan to have more in the future. I feel like we've been able to build a really, really cool friendship. And he reached out to me just when he was sort of formulating the idea of Kicks and Coffee, and it's probably sort of the latest sneaker convention that we have in the UK. But the vibe is so clean and pure, and it's just beautiful, right? Because it's not so focused on sellers, it's not so focused on big activations. It's kind of a real nice mix of both, and it's super chilled. And yeah, man, I just fell into a great spot to be able to be someone that you can rely on in that way and give that opportunity to. So I've interviewed some really, really cool people in that space, and been able to deal with some great brands, and as I said, work with brands like Soul Supplier in the UK, which are like one of our biggest sneaker related brands, but also, yes, obviously, eBay's pretty big as well.
Yeah, I mean, the magnitude of different, like how brands are looked at in I always find it very interesting, right? Like how brands are looked at here and in other countries. Cause like, for example, I mean, we bring it back to wrestling, right? You go, if you watch New Japan, right? You see, for a huge example, right, is Prince Devitt will pull up and for Versace, be in Versace ads, and nobody would know who the hell he is over here, right?
Yeah.
He's not getting the same brand sponsorships in the US, right? I feel like it's brand sponsorships are so much harder, or like they're not so willing to work with the community, right? Unless you are of a certain stature, right? But
So
for them to sign off on you being able to do something on that stage, right? That's a big look, because people are like, oh, you know, oh, like it can be seen as like, oh, eBay knows this guy, like, and even if it's just aesthetics, like, or, that looks good, and you get
I'm
more
with that.
followers off of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for real. Whether it's optics, reality, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying like a version of the two, I'm easy and I'm cool, because my mentality, number one, like I said at the beginning, nobody owes me nothing. So if I'm in that spot, it's by the grace of God, and I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna do my absolute level best. You get me? So that opportunity to run the podcast in that environment was a blessing. And yeah, get ready. My social media is going to be laced with a lot of those photos. If it isn't already. You get me? Because it's such an honor and an opportunity. Like I've had like working with eBay has been great. Working with like Offspring as well and Aman has been great as well. Like I just got like, I feel like I definitely have had like a little bit of a hand up. And this is one of the reasons why I really like mess with the sneaker community. On both sides of the pond, like I've really been able to see like a lot of camaraderie. Like I haven't seen the negative side of it in that regard. Like I've seen a lot of camaraderie and people supporting the pod. You get me? And although obviously you always want things to be bigger, you always want more listeners, you always want more followers, you always want things to grow. But I'm super, super happy with what we've been able to do in the time that we've been doing it, because like, as I said, no one owes me nothing, bro. Like, if you listen to me for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you listen to the whole thing, bro, it's a blessing, man. I just take it like that. And yeah, man, we'll keep on rocking regardless of whether there's 5 or 10 or 15 million people watching.
We'll get there. We'll definitely get there. You're definitely gonna get there, and you know it's good to see that the UK community. Yeah, well, we're working, but it's good to see that the UK community is definitely getting around people of color and also just especially immigrants as well. We live in this current world where everybody's looking in any big alliance country, immigration is looked as like frowned upon or like shouldn't be here, but it's like we obviously our parents moved from dire straits to try to make a living, and we got to give that same grace to everybody else that wants to have that chance as well. So
absolutely, man.
yeah,
Yeah, we definitely have to. We definitely have to give people their opportunities, man. Because nobody owes nobody nothing. We have to be working hard and grafting. You get me, and working smart as well. You get me, man. So there's a lot of opportunity for those that want it, man. You get me. So yeah,
for
definitely,
sure.
definitely. There's opportunity out here. If you really want something, you can go out and get it.
Facts. So now we're towards the end of the podcast, my guy. I always ask another question, and that question deals with a little bit of visualization. I want you to think back to 10-year-old Prozac, sorry.
You've already
And
said, bros.
I want you to think about that moment when he was just about to open that box with the Reebok Classics in it. And now you transported back to your younger self behind them, and I want you to tell them what you would tell them as they open that box.
Wow, that's such a deep question, bro. Do you know what I would tell him? I would actually tell him. I would tell him that you are you're opening a box and it's sneakers and it's cool, but this is the beginning of an amazing journey that you're gonna go on. And you're gonna meet some amazing people and you're gonna have some awesome conversations. You're gonna be in some big rooms where you're not gonna feel worthy. You're gonna feel like an imposter. You're not gonna feel like you know enough. You're not gonna feel like you've been doing what you're meant to be doing for long enough. But honestly, just keep being you. Just keep being that nerd. Just keep loving what you love with all your heart and passion, and keep on being a light, bro. Just keep on being a light, man. Just keep on being that positive you. And yeah, man. And the poppy fat will go. It will.
What?
The poppy fat will go eventually. You get me? You will get a bit hench, but you just gotta keep it off. Try and keep it off, G. You get me?
You just spoke a whole different language to me, bro. What did you just say?
I was saying, like, you will lose some weight.
Uh-huh.
You will lose some weight. You get me, man. But like, you're a big guy, so don't get too fixated on the weight thing. You get me? Like, try and go gym a bit more. You get me, man. Like, and maybe I'll tell him about intermittent fasting at that time. You get me, man. That might help. That might help. You get me? That
Sit
might
him
help.
down and teach him intermittent fasting. Like, all right, look, your feeding
So,
windows are
I'm saying, like,
12 to.
get me? Or just tell him, just develop an app. It's called My Fitness Pal. Just do that. And before apps have been created. But yeah, no, I'd probably start with the first thing.
Yo, let everybody know where to find you. One more
Excuse me.
time.
Yeah. So, my name is Prozech. That's Prozech. On all platforms. So yeah, TikTok, Instagram, Yeah, even on Facebook and obviously on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube as well. The podcast is called Kicks Chronicles, and that's Kicks spelt the regular way and Chronicles spelt with a K. That comes out every week on Sundays, available everywhere you get podcasts. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure being here, man. Absolute pleasure being here, man. Please, guys, make sure to do all the things you're meant to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this podcast, but also make sure to tell to show Has love because he's doing God's work right about now, man. He's doing God's work. He's doing God's work, man. And we need all the love we can get, man, when we're doing this work, man. Because
No, I
it can be
appreciate that.
it can be a little lonely at certain points. You're talking to people, but you're putting in a lot of work by
Oh
yourself.
yeah,
You get me, man? So we need to show love, man. We need to
of course, man. And then you know where to find me. I am Who Is Haas on all social medias. Follow the podcast on My First Kicks Pod. Follow the podcast on TikTok with My First Kicks. If you're listening to this, I'm gonna need you to hop onto YouTube. Hit up My First Kicks on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like on this video. If you're watching this, hit that like, and share this. Leave a comment. It always helps with engagement. You know what it is. Leave a review if you're first time listening. And if you have a My First Kick story, hit me up, myfirstkickspod@gmail.com. Or even if you have any questions or advice that you need, I would like to start adding that to this podcast. Thank you so much for hopping on, Prozech.
It's been a blessing, bro. Been a blessing, man. Been a blessing, man. Make sure to check out,
Yeah,
our part 1 and part 2 on my podcast as well, man.
for sure.
Hear my story, yeah, great, man. His story, we want to hear, right? Want to hear his story. You want to hear his story, you get me?
It's
So,
also very opinionated. If you guys, I know my listeners love when I'm opinionated because I don't really get to talk a lot about myself on here, but I'm on there. That's why I go on. I guest on other podcasts so y'all can hear more about me. You know what I mean?
we love it. We love it.
Thank you again for jumping on, and for everybody out there, you know we say each week, wear your kicks. Peace.
Peace.